All right, let's turn to the Patriots now. Training camp has opened in earnest. We had a couple boots on the ground there on opening day. Let's start with Sean about your Patriots training camp experience.
In terms of yesterday, in terms of
Just about what you saw
yeah,
compared to previous years under Mayo and Belichick.
yeah, I think the Stefan Diggs stuff has to be the main storyline. It's certainly the biggest thing to me. I think Drake May looked comfortable. I think he looked good. But I just to have Stefan Diggs come out and be, he wasn't listed on NFI, he wasn't listed on PUP. Vrabel said he was going to be, there was no limitations, and like you hear that, and that was on Tuesday when Vrabel said that stuff, and you hear that, and it's like, all right, yeah, but let's actually see him on the field. Let's see, like, how much he's actually, run through drills. Let's see how much he's competing in 11 on 11s, competitive two hand touch 11 on 11s at this point. But yeah, I was kind of surprised, stunned, maybe. It did not look like he had any limitations. He went through everything. He was certainly a contributor in, there's only two periods of 11 on 11s yesterday, but definitely a contributor in that. I think he had a pair of catches. The first catch that he had, it was the first play of Drake May's first pass, and definitely a roar from the crowd, I would say. When Diggs ran out to the field, he had a pretty decent ovation as well. And then I think that first pass and that first reception was the same thing. And I just think like because of him, the offense has a different ceiling, and I think fans are pretty excited about that and kind of see that. So I think that has to be my main takeaway of the day.
Diggs looked fine. I didn't watch a ton. I was more, trying to get a Dunkin' Donuts bucket hat and watching my kid go through the obstacle course. And when we finally did sit down, like we were blocked by a scoreboard. So, um, but yeah, Diggs, I this is one thing I actually give football reporters respect for. They're either very good at faking their own knowledge, which I think is maybe the more likely thing, or they just know. And it's like if you had told me like Steph Diggs was running 72% on Tuesday or whatever Wednesday yesterday, I'd be like, yeah. Or if you told me he's like 100%, I'd be like, yeah, that looks. I don't know the difference. Like I don't know how crisp his routes are being run. Like I don't know that shit. I'm not gonna pretend to either. Like that's just. I think there's a lot of people. This is a media discussion. Is like, they have no idea what they're looking at and they just say things that sound smart. And it's like, all right, yeah, I guess Steph Diggs is back to go. And then it's like yeah, you ask the coach afterwards, and he says, "Yeah, he looked good." It's like, "Well, I was right. All right, cool, let's go." Yeah. So other than that, like, I mean, the offensive line, I guess, was maybe a bit of an issue, but it's day one. Like, who?
Yeah, yeah,
You know what? One takeaway: Josh Dobbs stinks. They
thanks.
better keep
Yeah,
Drake May healthy. I know I'm only
yeah,
going off of like 7 passes, but Jesus Christ, the guy needed a compass. Like, could
yeah,
not find it. The one pass that he did complete for like 25 yards was because I think it was like Kendrick Bourne went up in between like two receivers, pulled it down to the point where like Kendrick Bourne was doing a jig on the sideline because he was
yeah,
so happy to make the catch. Like, the pastronaut looked like he was drifting into a different galaxy. It was
yeah.
bad news. So they like that's all right. That's my takeaway. Is offensive line is of paramount importance because if Drake May gets hurt, this thing is cooked. It doesn't matter who's playing receiver; they are screwed.
And to that point, like I think some of the conversations during the offseason was like, why would you choose Josh Dobbs over Jacoby Brissett? And I don't know if Jacoby Brissett was like, gonna sign up to be the backup, like for
Yeah.
sure behind Drake May. But if they chose Josh Dobbs over Jacoby Brissett and Jacoby Brissett would have came here, I think that looks terrible after day one.
What do
Okay.
you mean? If
Like after yesterday's performance, I think that was not the right decision.
the more I think about it, though, like there's no way Brissett wanted to be here, right? I don't
Yeah, probably not.
because like the way things played out last year, it wasn't like he was a primary part of that whole thing, and it's like he ended up losing his job, and it's like, well, so you come back knowing that like if you have any
Yeah,
aspirations of starting, it's not happening here. Like Dobbs at least is a career
he
backup.
knows. Yeah,
Yeah, and who has like flashed at times, but I think you start seeing extended looks at him, and that you get what you get. I think there are better backup quarterback. I didn't mean to turn this into a conversation about the state of the backup quarterback, but like I think there were better options out there, and you could bring in somebody off the street even, and maybe kind of work them up um, that way too. Like, and if you trust your system, like that's one thing I will say about like a team, the team I root for, the Packers. Like I think they do a pretty good job of like identifying guys who kind of stink as quarterbacks and bring them in and be like, you just need to learn our system and you'll be okay.
mm.
Like what they did with Malik Willis last year was borderline miraculous. So like, yeah, again, I don't mean to. We don't need to go down, QB2 road on day 2 of training camp, but it was not an impressive showing, that's for sure.
This is the
He
portion
looked
of the program where I
off.
realized I forgot to bring my water in here, so now I'm getting a little parched.
Uh oh.
Yeah.
Uh oh.
So how
We'll
about
talk about the QB2 if you want to keep. If you want to go fill up. We'll just sit here talking
no,
about backup
that's
quarterbacks.
my appetite or whatever. It goes
How's this
away
thing?
when we're talking about Josh Dobbs. So how about operationally though? Because oh man, Jesus,
Yeah.
wow, that is
Sweet nectar.
that is like a bat flip. Where was I? Oh yeah. So I mean, how about operationally? Because I just watching the Forge and Foxborough show. I know that is Patriots propaganda. But one thing I have been impressed with is it seems to be a smooth operation. And it's probably just the contrast of last year. But seeing the footage of people in coaches meetings where they're actually having substantive conversations. And I think that hearing that goes a lot further to engendering confidence than the kind of the Gerard Mayo approach, which was kind of the rah sort of confidence building. And then when it comes to the nuts and bolts, there's kind of like nothing there. And that just might be, me taking my personal preference for how I like to what I like to hear from leaders. I like to feel like, how do we do this thing? Not just like, we're going to do this. It's going to be amazing. But I just think that like when they got into that, they showed that meeting and they were talking about, I think it was a specific wide receiver. They didn't, but like they were talking about how they could improve his route so that would be there later in the year. And kind of like Marone and McDaniels are talking about this and that. And, Vrabel's, inserting his idea that like, I think at one point he's like, yeah, we like, can we do such and such? And they're like, yeah, totally, we can do it. And like, it just, like I said before, I'm huge on just competence, and it seems like such a competent operation now that whether the coach's job is just to put the players in the position, and if they succeed or fail, it's kind of the players' fault. And are the players good enough this season for that to be like a championship contending? No, I don't think so. But like, at least they're in a position now that like, if they suck, they suck because they suck, and it's not like Kyle Duggar or whoever. It's like you don't know whether last year did he suck or was he just put in the position to suck repeatedly.
yeah. I think it's going to be a better product to watch because of that, and I think it's just all pretty much strictly based on coaching at this point. And a lot of the stuff that Vrabel has said early, like he talked about like the 3 objectives or something for a successful training camp, and it's like ground level, like build a team, like it's the basics, and I think that tells you he knows where they're at, and they need to do these things, and we're not worried about the stuff that comes down the line. And I just think it's like a very realist, and I don't know, I think it's a good approach. I think it's like a very realist approach given so much turnover, and given it's a young team, a lot of new faces obviously too. And I think all of that is like kind of what's going to breed competence for the team. And I don't think, I will say, I think the first 11 on 11 snap, there was an offsides on, it was a defensive end. But after that, you didn't see a lot of penalties during 11 on 11s yesterday. And, that was certainly not the case last season. But yeah, so I think to your point, Ben, like I think it's a much more competent coaching staff, and that's going to mean a much more competent team.
If you were to rank the penalties you'd be okay with taking on day one of training camp, and offsides from like the defensive end would rank near like the most acceptable. It's like, well, at least that
Yeah.
guy was just he's just too excited to go to work. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can work with that. Like that's sick, man. Like I love your energy. Like just don't do it again. Um, I. I think I've made this point before, but like this is like one of the surest signs that I'm getting older is that I absolutely love talking about this shit because it's like, you know, you can whatever like freak athletes are freak athletes. I can't really relate to that, but I can kind of relate to some of this type of stuff. Not in a way that anything comes close to like running a football team, but just I think there are translatable things. I also think there's a very interesting power dynamic among the three of us from our past days going on here, where it's like, um, you know, the head coach tells the coordinator, tells the player type of deal. But I actually do think that that's an interesting point to make here is that Gerard Mayo was woefully inept and unprepared to do this job. Both clearly from like the stuff that we saw on a day to day, whether it's media, whether it's in game coaching, whether it's getting his team ready, whatever. But I think just as important is that he did a horrible job of building a coaching staff around him. And perhaps he was saddled with some various things, whether it's, you know, the Van Pelt stuff and, you know, the crafts and the football ops probably didn't do him, you know, the greatest of favors. But like, I love Vrabel's ability to not deflect, but to defer. And, you know, if we're going to assume that he wasn't forced on McDaniels wasn't forced on him, the ability to go, I'm comfortable in my own shoes. I'm hiring this guy to bring along my rookie or my second year quarterback the way that he has in other, you know, places or has helped shepherd Tom Brady. Um, that takes a level of selflessness. Same thing with Marone. Like he's brought in a lot of former head coaches who have big egos, who have probably have greater aspirations than being assistants, you know, under Mike Vrabel. But he says, I'm comfortable not knowing what I don't know. And I'm going to bring in guys who are going to be respected and can do their jobs on a, you know, they are dependable. They've done it in other places and they can connect with players. And like, I was gonna make one other point with that, and I've kind of forgotten what it is, but like, it's just I think being able to build that out. The three things thing too, Sean. Like I thought
yeah.
it was a very interesting quote, not because of the three things; those are whatever.
Are you
But
talking
like,
about
A,
the
I
things that
love
are
this.
good, things that are bad, and things that get you beat? Or are you talking about?
No, it's what was it, Sean? This was the one where he
Was
got on the reporters for not knowing
Oh.
the.
Yeah, Ben, that was I forgot about that. The good, the bad, and the shit that'll get you beat was the one you're thinking of, Ben. That was a good quote too. This was about him talking about objectives, and the first objective is that simply they want to build a team. The second objective is that they want players to earn a role, and the third objective is we have to prepare to win. And so he said that on Tuesday, and then someone asked him yesterday, you know, what would you do? Like, how would you define a successful training camp? And he said, you know, those three objectives. And to Mike's point, like he's like, do you remember what they were? And the media couldn't remember. And
But like
it was kind of a funny interaction.
that's kind of the point though. Like those are so nondescript. There's no real like value or information to be gleaned from that. But it's just like it's the definition of keep it simple, stupid, right? And it's like
Yeah,
if we do these things, especially starting from where we're starting, we are going to get better. Like I've been around. This is me saying from his perspective. I've been around enough professional football in my life, and even college, like with Ohio State. Like if we do these things, we have no choice but to get better. And I feel confident enough in my ability to coach you up, and the people around me can coach you up, and we'll figure out the little stuff. But if we are just striving for these three big picture things, there's no way we don't get better. It is kind of a little bit like do your job type of simplicity, but it's like the tip of the iceberg, and underneath is where all the good stuff is. So I I like that. Like it's just he is. I think he's like the best quality is like not. This is probably overstating a little bit, but like Belichick and Mayo, where it's like I think he's organized. I think he knows the game well, on level with Belichick, and I think he is personable and affable in a way that Mayo strived to be, and maybe kind of even fell short. But like you'll see him running around the practice fields. He's coaching guys up. Like I think he brings a lot of I mean, there's a reason why he's one of the considered one of the best coaches in the NFL. So I like that it's a beneficial spot where he comes in because the expectations are so low and like he can only bring it up. But I think the types of things that he's done so far just are going to go so far in raising the floor.
I think in the long term, it's going to be hard for me to remain unbiased with Vrabel because he reminds me so much of Bill Parcells. And I love Bill Parcells. Like I anytime I ever see a video or anything of Bill Parcells talking, I drop what I'm doing because I just could just listen to the guy talk about whatever. He's one of the most
like a politically
entertaining.
correct Bill Parcells.
What's that?
He's like a politically correct
Yeah,
Bill Parcells.
like it's really it's incredible. So the ability to like he knows what he's talking about, but he also has the ability to kind of like make kind of the simplest message, kind of Sean to what you were saying. Like it's almost like he could have the same message to a 10-year-old in Pop Warner as he does to a 25-year-old on the practice field, and then also very similar to Parcells, which is not something that I can remember seeing in New England since Parcells. Definitely not with Carroll. Definitely not with Belichick. Definitely not with Mayo. Is his ability to rib the media and like kind of go back and forth with the media, and then like the next day it's like whatever, and like almost that like he expects them to give it back to him. Like that's what Parcells would give little comments here, and he would expect them to come back and give him little comments back. And it wasn't like, I feel like if no one ever dared do that with Mayo, because I think there was an understanding that Mayo did not have the ego and like he didn't have the comfort with his like to take that kind of ball busting and understand that it's within the fun of the thing. Like Vrabel understands that like he can kind of give them they can come that, and it's like and that is where like I go like, wow, this guy goes from like having some Parcells similarities to like legitimately being like a Parcells like recreation.
Yeah, and Ben, I don't know if you want to like get into like the exact conversation that we're thinking of.
Go for it.
You want to do that right now?
Yeah, go for it.
So essentially, the conversation was on Tuesday. Vrabel was asked one question. The first question was from Tom Curran, and the question was something about how Vrabel said in the past. Oh shoot, what was the question? How Vrabel said in the past that he essentially, building off the offseason and all that sort of thing. And it was like a very specific, like you said this beforehand, like, do you see this, playing out now that we're here and that training camp's here and the offseason's behind you? And Vrabel gave a great answer, extensive answer, a few minutes. He said it was 5 minutes. I don't know if it was 5, but it was extensive. It was extensive. And it was like 2 or 3 questions later that Vrabel gets asked the exact same question in the exact same way, saying like, quote, like, yes, you said this, before it was about the most important 5 weeks of the offseason. And, do you see, now that the 5 weeks are over, do you see that, players came back and, they're in good shape or whatever? And it was almost word for word the same question. And Vrabel let the question play out. It was from Ben Vole in Boston Globe. And Vrabel let the question play out and just kind of like sighed. And he's like, well, if you were in a coma, like, I don't know if you were in a coma or if you were tweeting on your phone.
Oh, your phone. You're playing with your phone. Yeah.
Or if you were texting. But he's like, I just spent 5 minutes answering this exact same question. And he goes on, he gave a decent answer. He also joked how like he thought he was getting punked when he was asked the question a second time, which I thought was great as well. But it just like to what you were talking about, like that ribbing was just really good, and it was a banter, but it was also it showed you behind the scenes. Like if players aren't on their shit, like this is how the meetings look. Like they're getting called out for not being on their P's and Q's, and Vrabel expects that from the media. And I just thought like that was like a perfect encapsulation of a few different things.
We saw that in the leaked video with of him addressing the team where he's like calling on people randomly. And so I just looked it up on the Patriots media site. I couldn't they pulled all the like the punked thing. I thought, again, you don't get very popular defending Ben Volin, but I thought they like local media outlets did him a little dirty by not including. Like Vrabel did kind of be like, it's not the end of the world type of the
yeah
exactly.
Well,
Yeah, I agree with like Ben's point, like about him being able to bust balls in a way that like that's maybe his love language, which is very relatable for somebody like me. Like I people probably think I'm an asshole, but it's like that means I like you, and I think he might have that. You know, if I can make fun of you, it means I like you. So I think he's in a similar way, but like he's not like he can communicate. Like he's a good
Yeah.
communicator, and like
Yeah.
that's I think that's a sign of good communication. Whereas like Belichick was just an asshole because he didn't know how to communicate in a you know in a way that like adult males of his age should be able to communicate, and like that manifested itself in a very uncomfortable way for 25 years. But like I think there's a way that Vrabel does it that is dry and witty and sarcastic, and
Yeah.
like I think you like yeah, Volan probably felt like a dipshit for 10 minutes, but at the same time, like, hey, this is the expectation. Like, you be on my level, dude. Like, we're here. Like, we're at work. Like, let's go. And I kind of like that because I think if you're able to keep that energy when you're doing something as mundane as meeting with a bunch of reporters, that you're gonna keep it on the field. Like, so I think it's another thing too. It's like a brand. It's a personal brand. Like, I'm what you see is what you get. I'm not changing for you. I'm not changing for my players. I'm not changing for my wife. Like, this is what I am. And I think that is a way that to have sustained success as a leader and a communicator. Not to get too broad, but
Yeah. And since Sean mentioned his name, I do want to add nothing against Ben Volen. I mean, obviously, he does a great job. His name's Ben. You know, card carrying member of the Boston Ben Sports Media Association. The no,
I can't
never mind. I'm
remember
not
a
going to say
press
that
conference.
acronym.
Yeah, I can't remember a press conference. I spent like even like the biggest like coaches fired. Like nobody has ever just sat there and paid attention to every single
Yeah.
word that's been said. So it's
Yeah.
very easy for that to happen. I almost respect the confidence to be like, there's no way anybody's asked this. I'm gonna ask
Well, and
basically
also yeah,
verbatim.
and also like I read. I make sure to read Volan. I mean, sometimes it can be a little harsh. But I
Yeah,
do
he's
think he
important
does a
though.
good job of when a lot of the beat is zigging in one direction. He does a great job of zagging. So I do think that is valuable. When you can't get in kind of like a beat writer echo chamber. So I will give him that. And also like the person that I've seen Vrabel rib the most so far is Karen Garagian,
Karen, yeah.
and he loves Karen. You know what I mean? Like every single coach question she asks, he says some sort of like, you know, snide comment. And to your point though, it's like he does that to the person on the media he likes the most. So it's obviously it's not. You know, I know, you know, people on social media or whatever might be like, "Oh, he's really putting him in their place," you know, telling those. He's not. I don't think doing it out of spite. It's something where he's like, "Hey, guys, like, we're here. We got to talk every day. Let's at least try to have a little bit of fun with this."
And if you want to give him too much credit, there's almost something admirable about doing it with Karen, right? Like she's a woman, and I'm gonna treat her the same exact that I treat everybody else. If anything, I'm propping her up because I like her more than you guys. So like, there's I don't want to get too carried away with what kind of statements Mike Vrabel is trying to make by how he banters with relatively nondescript media members. But I like Vrabel.
Susan
What can
B.
I say?
Anthony,
If
Mike
it isn't clear,
Vrabel,
yeah,
the giants of the feminist movement.
yeah. I am what I am.
What else you got, Sean? Any other non-Vrabel related training camp thoughts?
Um,
That
trying to think.
sounds like a
I would
no.
say
All right.
I would say, I mean, in doing just because I like have this in the frame of my mind now after doing it for Nesson, the three studs, three duds. I had Kyle Williams in my mind as a stud, and he had play of the day. It was against Christian Gonzalez, and I just think like
This is this is the shit I was talking about earlier, where it's like, I'm not saying that I guess it's a slight detour, but like, we do this every goddamn year with every team. It's not just the Patriots. It's not just you. It's not just the Boston media, but it's like one day all of us, because I get it. Like, especially if you're a verified Twitter user, Savage Sports takes you and runs wild, and all of a sudden it gets all over the place. But it's like, let's cool it on rookies. Like it's just,
Well, what I was gonna say is
especially rookie receivers and for the Patriots. It's like
I
we've
was
done
actually
this
going to
a
take
billion
it in
times.
a little bit of a different direction and say that he was really he had the play of the day, and the two rookies from last year, so not rookies, they're now second year players.
Yes.
Yes, that's how it
Um,
works.
those two receivers, Jalen Polk wasn't there, and Javon Baker did nothing. So I just think like after day one, it is very clear that he is, has the advantage over those guys, and not that like the roster decision battle was never going to come down to Kyle Williams against those guys because Kyle Williams was drafted this year with Vrabel and those guys weren't. So that was like a very obvious like Kyle Williams was going to win that battle. But I do think like there's already day one, there's already a little bit of separation.
In your defense too, I will say it goes the other way too. I heard Felger and Maz like trying to badger Greg Bedard into saying that Will Campbell's arms were too short after day one. So like it goes both ways. It's not just overhyping it. It's tearing guys down too. So
Yeah,
it's the content world, baby.
that's how it goes.